Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. My name is Mohammed Saleh. On the 5th of March, Ukrainian naval drones chased down the Russian Black Sea Fleet's missile corvette Sergeykov, inflicting such severe damage on the 1,700-ton warship that it eventually sank along the port of Feodosia in southeastern Crimea. Keep in mind that Ukraine at this moment does not have any large warships of its own. And yet the Ukrainians have managed to sink a quarter of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in the 2 years since this war erupted. The attention of most military analysts at this moment is focused on the ground war, in a contest where Ukraine has been outgunned and outmaneuvered. And with no American aid that is forthcoming, Moscow appears to have a clear upper hand in this war. But in the Black Sea, the situation appears to be starkly different. The sinking of Sergeykov is the latest in a series of remarkable successes that Ukraine has pulled off against Russia. But what is giving Ukraine the firepower to toy with Russia's Black Sea Fleet? Our next report gets you the details. This was the dramatic moment when the 1,700-ton Russian corvette was chased down by a swarm of Ukrainian naval drones in the Black Sea. This footage that was released by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry showed several of the Ukrainian drones that had managed to sneak close to the Russian missile ship. The gunners on the Russian warship Sergeykov tried their best to shoot down the Ukrainian drones, but despite that, the swarm of the Ukrainian naval drones rammed into the stern, starboard and port side of the Russian vessel. And such was the impact of the explosive-laden naval drones that the corvette, a crucial part of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, exploded in a ball of flames and eventually sank to the bottom of the sea along the port of Feodosia. The attack took place near the Kerch Strait, connecting the Black Sea to the Sea of Azov. The Russians have so far remained tight-lipped about the incident. But the loss of the corvette Sergeykov, that is estimated to be worth about $65 million, is both a loss of face and firepower for the Russian Black Sea Fleet. But Sergeykov is just the latest Russian warship that Ukraine has managed to destroy and sink. On the 13th of February, Ukraine again managed to use its naval drones to sink a large Russian landing ship called Sergeykov. So how is Ukraine, that doesn't even have a decent navy to speak of, managing to pull off the daring attacks in the Black Sea? The answer lies in the naval drones that Ukraine has developed that are now lurking in the dark waters of the Black Sea. This video by the Ukrainian Defense Forces will give you a glimpse of what the Ukrainians are fielding in the Black Sea. Called the Sea Baby drones, these surface vessels are remotely piloted with the use of GPS and cameras. The Sea Babies can be fitted with 2,200 tons of explosives and have a range of over 621 miles. They're highly maneuverable and are also relatively cheap, each costing a sum of $200,000. So far, Ukraine has managed to sink 4 of Russia's landing ships: the Moscow cruiser, a submarine called Rostov-on-Don, 2 missile corvettes, and several smaller patrolling vessels. These naval units make up almost 25% of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Russia uses its Black Sea Fleet to launch cruise missiles or to bring in supplies and personnel to the Russian garrisons in southern Ukraine. But the Ukrainian attacks have forced the Russians to pull back their fleet from the vulnerable ports in Crimea and also from Novorossiysk in southern Russia. Of late, Russia has been writing off its warships at the rate of 1 a month. But the question is, why isn't Russia able to make good its naval losses in this war? The answer lies in the production capacity of Russia's shipping yards. Russia is able to build large submarines, but is struggling to build large warships. But even if it were to build large warships at a faster rate, to replenish the vessels that it has lost in the Black Sea, it would still not be able to bring in the warships into the Black Sea through the Bosphorus Strait. Turkey, which controls the Bosphorus Strait, does not allow any warship, allied or enemy, to pass through the Bosphorus Strait in times of war. So even as Russia continues to win the war on the ground, in a naval contest, the formidable Russian Black Sea fleet appears to be pushed on the back foot. The Caribbean nation of Haiti has been in turmoil for many years. The assassination of the former President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021 has further plunged the country into complete chaos and disarray. Elections haven't happened since 2016 and the presidency remains vacant. Armed gangs are in control of vast swathes of Haiti and they launched a coordinated attack last week in a bid to oust Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who was in Kenya at the time. He has since struggled to return to his home and is currently believed to be in Puerto Rico. As unrest spreads, a notorious gang leader, Jimmy Cherizier, also known as Barbecue, has warned that the present chaos engulfing the capital of Port-au-Prince will lead possibly to a genocide and civil war unless the Prime Minister steps down. A state of emergency has in fact been declared by the government and nighttime curfew has also been imposed. So is Haiti on the verge of being taken over by criminal gangs?
Haiti is the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. Security situation here has nosedived since the assassination of former President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021 and is today comparable to countries at war. The impoverished nation of more than 11 million people has been taken hostage by an estimated 7 major gang coalitions. Violent crimes such as kidnappings for ransom, armed robbery and carjackings are disturbingly common. Killings and rape have been used as a brutal tactic to sow terror in communities. In the latest flare-up last week, a coordinated attack was launched by multiple armed groups to force the ouster of the Prime Minister, Ariel Henry. Police stations, a police academy and the international airport, Toussaint Louverture, were targeted. More than 20 buildings have been looted or torched, including the Peace Court in Croix des Bouquets. At least 6 police officers have been killed, while the National Police Academy lies destroyed. Thousands of inmates are believed to have escaped from the 2 prisons attacked by the gang members, including one on Haiti's largest prison. Sensing the urgency of the rapidly deteriorating security situation, the United Nations issued an appeal for help.
I urge the international community to act swiftly and decisively to prevent Haiti's further descent into chaos. Last weekend's mass prison breakout has been described by Haitian officials as a lethal threat to national security. More than 4,500 inmates are now known to have escaped, among them prominent gang members, as well as those arrested in connection with the assassination of late President Jovenel Moïse. The break followed coordinated gang action against national institutions with the stated aim of bringing down the government. This situation is beyond untenable for the people of Haiti. Since the beginning of the year, a staggering 1,193 people were killed and 692 others were injured by gang violence.
The man at the center of the mayhem is 46-year-old Haitian gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, also known as Barbecue. Formerly an officer of the Haitian National Police Force, Cherizier is alleged by the United Nations to have played a role in multiple massacres, including the killing of over 70 people in 2018. On the 5th of March, Cherizier threatened that Haiti would plunge into a civil war that will end in genocide if Prime Minister Henry doesn't step down.
If Ariel Henry doesn't step down, the country will suffer a genocide. If Ariel Henry doesn't step down, if the international community continues to support Ariel Henry, they'll lead us directly into a civil war that will end in genocide. The international community, especially the United States, Canada, France, and the core group will be responsible for all the people who die in Haiti.
Elections were supposed to be held in Haiti, and Prime Minister Henry scheduled to cede power to the newly elected officials by the 7th of February this year, which didn't happen. The political crises, years of drought and gang violence has rendered about half the Haitian population in need of humanitarian assistance. Since last week, an estimated more than 15,000 people have fled their homes. The US, as well as the Caribbean nations, have urged Prime Minister Henry to take steps to finalize a political agreement. While the search for a political solution continues, the situation on the ground in Haiti remains extremely dire and very alarming.
Kidnapping gangs, who are infamously known as bandits, have plagued much of Nigeria recently, especially in its northwest. In the latest incident, at least about 287 school students were abducted in the northwestern town of Kuriga on the 7th of March. Alarmingly, the incident marks the second mass abduction in the West African nation in a span of a week. On the 4th of March, suspected Boko Haram insurgents had kidnapped more than 100 people, mostly women, in the remote Gamboro area of northeastern Nigeria while they were out collecting firewood. The twin incidents of kidnappings, though unrelated, are especially concerning given the reduction in the mass abductions that have been witnessed over the past year. Our next report gets you more details.
The scourge of mass kidnappings returned to haunt Nigerians this past week. In the biggest abduction targeting a school since 2021, at least 287 students between the ages of 8 and 15, along with a teacher, were kidnapped from their school assembly ground around 8:30 a.m. local time on Thursday, when dozens of gunmen riding motorcycles attacked the school. Our correspondent, Louisa Olani, sent us this ground report in the immediate aftermath of the incident.
In what can be described as a renewed kidnap spree, bandits were reported to have invaded the LEA primary school, Kuriga, in the troubled Chiko local government area of Kaduna State, kidnapping scores of pupils and staff members on Thursday morning. Senator Shehu Sani, who represented Kaduna Central in the 8th National Assembly, confirmed and expressed concern over the latest incident. He said no fewer than 232 students were abducted. Now, Kuriga is the same village where a school principal, Idris Sofian, was killed and his wife kidnapped over a month ago. This incident is coming days after an abduction of about 200 persons, mainly women, was reported in Borno State.
The attack took place in the northwestern town of Kuriga in the Kaduna State. Of the students kidnapped, 187 were from the secondary school, while 125 were in the primary school. Reportedly, 25 of them have since returned. In Nigeria, the kidnapped are usually freed after a ransom is paid. Scale of the tragedy can be gauged by the fact that almost every family in the town is believed to have a child among those kidnapped.
Please come and help us. Don't leave us. We have not eaten. Please help us. Where is the president? Where is the governor? Students are inside the bush. In one household, 7 children were kidnapped, while in another household, 5 children were also kidnapped.
Though the criminal kidnap groups terrorizing the northwestern Nigeria are separate from the militant group Boko Haram in the northeast, there have been reports of both groups working together occasionally. Thursday's school attack took place in an area controlled by Ansaru, which is a breakaway faction of Boko Haram and responsible for kidnapping of more than 200 schoolgirls from the town of Chibok in 2014. Given the resurgence in kidnappings, the Nigerian government needs to crack the whip to rein in the spiraling and lucrative kidnapping industry.
Chinese and Philippine Coast Guard vessels collided in the disputed South China Sea on the 5th of March. Now, at least about 4 Filipino crew members were injured in the latest high seas confrontation, which occurred in waters around the second Thomas Shoal in the Spratly Islands, where both nations have competing territorial claims. Manila and Beijing have accused each other of being the agent provocateur. Now, China claims almost the entire of the South China Sea and has repeatedly sought to assert its sovereignty. So what is at the root of these contesting claims between these two nations? Our next report gets more details.
Tensions between Beijing and Manila have flared up in recent months, with the vessels from both countries clashing near contested reefs. The most recent conflagration took place in the early hours of Tuesday. Reportedly, the Chinese Coast Guard ships and accompanying vessels blocked the Philippine Coast Guard and supply vessels off the disputed second Thomas Shoal. In the dangerous maneuvers and collision that followed, the BRP contingent of the Philippine Coast Guard suffered minor structural damage. About an hour later, in an almost similar maneuver, another Chinese Coast Guard ship first blocked and then collided with a supply boat the Philippine Coast Guard was escorting. The supply boat was later hit by water cannon blasts from 2 Chinese Coast Guard ships, shattering its windshield and injuring 4 Filipino crew members.
Well, I was on the bridge with the crew, with the RORE team when they hit us, and it was really high pressured water, water cannon ang they used, and it resulted in damages. Medyo malakas. It shattered the windshields of the ship and caused some injuries to our personnel.
Refuting the allegations of harassment and blocking by Manila's South China Sea Task Force, Beijing claimed that its Coast Guard was restrained in clashes with the Philippine ships.
The Chinese Coast Guard responded to the Philippines' infringement and provocation at the Renai Shoal in accordance with the law and took necessary enforcement measures that were legitimate, legal, professional, restrained and beyond reproach. In this incident, who is initiating provocation? Who violated international law and endangered peace and stability in the South China Sea? The truth is clear.
China and Philippines are not the only claimants of this strategic waterway. Brunei, Malaysia, Vietnam and Taiwan also have overlapping claims to this major global trade route believed to be sitting atop rich undersea deposits of oil and natural gas. Given the history of confrontation in these troubled waters, it would be safe to assume that this isn't the last of altercations.
Doha, the capital of Qatar, hosted the 8th edition of the International Maritime Defence Conference. Now, the event was attended by more than 200 international military enterprises. 9 nations had set up their pavilions at the exhibition, including Qatar, China, France and Italy. Our next report gets more details. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World at War. And if you want to reach out to me with any comments, feedback or suggestions, please feel free to do so on the ID that you're seeing on your screens. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.